All right, hello everyone. So today I want to see if I can make a game in C. It's going to be a very simple game. And I think the way I want it to work is I want to have the user be able to roll two dice. And if the sum is 7 or 11, then they win. And if not, then the computer wins. And so this is not the most practical game um, because you only have two opportunities to win. And so you're probably going to lose quite a bit. However, I think that the concepts I'll be using are quite valuable for beginners learning C. Like myself, I'm not fantastic at C, but hopefully by doing this, I'll be able to kind of document my experience and maybe help some people learn some basics along the way. So I do know that the first thing I'm going to need is my int main void. So this is going to be the kind of main body of my code. So we're going to throw that in there. And before we even write anything inside of our main function, it's going to be very important that we include some things up at the top here. So we're going to go hashtag include. We're going to go standard input output, just like that. And there's going to be a few things I know I'm going to need, so I'm going to include them as well. So like I know that I'm going to need my standard library, so stdlib.h. And because I'm going to be using some random number generators, to make it more effective, I guess you could say, I'm also going to want to do hashtag include time.h, and that's so I can do like an srand time null or something like that, so that my random number generators are a little bit more random and don't follow so much of a pattern. So inside of my int main, I'm going to need a few things. So I know I'm going to want to start with getting some variables down for the different parts of my game. So for example, I know I'm going to need dice. Obviously, if I'm making a game about dice, let's call this dice 1, dice 2. And I'm also going to throw a sum in there because we need some way to determine what the value of the two dice combined is going to be to see if we win or not. And the reason I'm doing these as integers is because we're only going to be dealing with whole numbers because they're dice. Dice don't have half numbers or anything like that. And so we won't need to use a float. We're only ever going to be dealing with whole numbers. So once we have that out of the way, let's make a way to keep track of the player score and the computer score. Because like I said, it's going to loop infinitely until we either decide to quit the program or something like that. And so we can go int, and let's do player score is equal to 0. We'll initialize it right away. And let's also do computer score, so comp score. Let's set that equal to 0 as well. So once we have that out of the way, I think now we can start to do some actual programming. So let's see, we obviously need to initialize our dice values. So we're going to go srand and then time null. So this is where that including the time up at the top comes in handy. And let's do dice 1 is equal to rand, and obviously there's 6-sided dice. We're going to go modulus 6 plus 1. And the reason I do that plus 1 at the end is just the way numbers are handled in C. If I don't have that, I believe this should only give me a range of random numbers between 1 and 5, and obviously 1 up to 6. And so having that on the end just makes sure that we're always going to get a random number between 1 and 6. So let's do the same thing down here. Let's give this a quick test and make sure that it's working. So we're going to go printf. And let's do this twice. And so we want to see if these values are actually outputting random values between 1 and 6. So a way we can test that is go %d, because we are calling an integer. And then we're going to go dice 1. And we'll throw a new line in there. And then %d. Well, we'll do dice 2. So now when I run this, it should give us, there you go. You can see it gives us a random number between, oh, see, I do have a 7 in there. That's odd. So what happens if I take this out? 2, 2, 0. Oh, 0. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, there's our issue. I put the ampersand sign instead of the percent sign for modulus. And now we should never see that 7 ever again. You can see we got a high of 6 there. There's another 6. And we are never going to get that value of 7. And that's just part of the process of writing code is going back and debugging. Sometimes you make silly mistakes and that's completely fine. So just going back and keeping an eye out for those little issues is important. But at least now we know for sure that our random values are working. So we can get these out of here for now. But we need to have some kind of way to determine if we won or not. And the reason we're going to, or not the reason, but the way we're going to do that is we're going to do sum is equal to dice1 plus dice2. So now this is going to give us our sum of our two numbers. And we can determine if we're going to win or lose by that. And the way we can determine that is if we can use an if statement, and we're going to say, let's put two sets of brackets in there. So for the first bracket, we can say if sum is equal to 9, and in between these two sets of brackets, I'm going to put these two little parallel lines, and that's the Boolean operator for or. So if the sum is equal to 9 or sum is equal to, not 9, what did I say, 9? If sum is equal to 7 or 11. There we go. Once we know these two dice values, and once we know the sum, if the sum is 7 or 11, well, I guess that would just mean that we won. So we can go printf. I could say, congratulations. I'm a terrible typer. Congratulations. And then we can say, throw a new line in there, /n. Your sum was, I'm going to do %d, and again, throw our sum in there. So that's going to print out what our sum actually was. Your sum was whatever number. I'm going to go comma, you win. So there we go. Now, if our sum is ever going to be 7 or 11, it should print out, there you go, congratulations, your sum was 7, you win. And since we're keeping track of a score, we're going to want to do, I believe you could just do ++ player score. Second, I also want to go ahead and get the bottom part working. So if the sum is 7 or 11, print you win else. So if the sum is not 7 or 11, we don't have to specify because it's going to be every other case that's not 7 or 11. We're going to do printf, and we're going to say, let's throw another new line in there. Let's throw a new line in this one as well. Let's say your sum was not 7 or 11. And we're going to say you lose. So now we have a case for if we win and a case for if we lose. So if we run this, we should always get one of those two messages. Your sum was not 7 or 11, you lose. And you can see we're probably going to have to cycle through this quite a few times until we get a winning one. There we go. Congratulations, your sum was 11, you win. So now we have a output case of win and output case if we lose. The next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to have it available so that you can loop through this, because we don't want to just play it once. We want to be able to play it as many times as we want without having to stop the program and start it again. And so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to come down here and let's do verify if the player would like to continue. And the way we're going to determine that is with scanf. So scanf is going to take our input, store it to a value or a variable, and then using that value, we can determine whether or not we should loop through the program or just end the program. So let's do printf. We'll throw some new lines in there as well. Would you like to play again? And so if the player says yes, so we can go /n, and then let's do it like this. We're going to go this is equal to yes, and we'll throw some tabs in there, and we'll set this as no. So now whether we win or lose, because it's outside of this if statement, so whether we win or lose, it should always print this asking if we would like to play again. And so I can go like this. Your sum was not 7 or 11, you lose. Would you like to play again? And then you can see we have this option down here. And let's tidy this up a little bit. So we're going to go /n, and then we're going to go like this. And so that's just going to give us like a little arrow. There you go. So underneath this, I'm going to go scanf. And you have to be kind of careful with scanf. It's a little bit finicky. It's kind of broken. So we're going to go %C. And let's make a character input, or a character variable called input rather. So ampersand input. So that means we have to come up here to where we declare our variables. And let's do character input. So now we always have something to go back to determine whether or not we want to loop, depending on whatever answer we store into our input value. If we're going to use another if statement, if, let's throw some more brackets in there, and there's our or sign. So if input is equal to, we're going to say y, or if input is equal to uppercase Y, and I'm just doing that because I want it to be able to loop no matter if the player says yes or no, or sorry, not yes or no, if the user puts in a capital or lowercase letter. So that's where we're doing that, and then we're going to want to do, let's see, I guess we can do it where we can have a Boolean variable to tell us if we're looping or not. So let's do that. Let's come back up here and let's do bool loop. So I think that should be fine. And then what that means is we can come down to the bottom here and say, if that is our input, loop is going to be equal to true. Else, so in all other cases where you're not inputting y, we want to say loop is equal to false. So now we have this information, but the program actually still doesn't know how we can use these to determine if we should be looping or not. So I guess the best way to use this would be a do while loop. And the reason I'm going to use do while is because everything is going to be executed at least one time, and then it checks the condition at the bottom before looping again. So I'm going to go do, and then let's do our open and closing curly braces and throw this all the way down at the bottom. So this is going to say while loop is equal to true. But we need to check. We need to check if it's equal to true. So we're going to do double equal sign. And we're going to do return 0 down here, just that our program has a proper way of ending. So there's return 0. Let's try yes. So there you go. We can see we're looping. And if we press no, it just closes off our program. So that's working perfect. Exactly what I wanted to see. But the next thing that I noticed is that I have all this kind of garbage building up inside of my console. And I don't want all that there all the time. So the way I can do that is I can use system clear. And I believe that's part of the standard library. Correct me if I'm wrong. So the first thing that I'm going to want to do right away is just kind of come in here and say system clear. And the reason I'm putting it here is that every time I loop back to the beginning of the do, this is going to be the first thing it executes. So it's always going to clear whatever was in there, and then it's going to loop down to the rest of this. So there you go. Yes, yes, no, and there we go. It ends our program. And I'm not getting that big buildup of everything that was back there before. Next thing I need to do is actually, it would be nice if the player could see what their dice values were instead of just getting congratulations, you win, or sorry, you lose. So let's go printf and this, and we're going to copy and paste this. Yeah, %d, and then we say dice 2. So now that's going to actually print off our dice 1 and dice 2 values, just like that. Let's throw a new line in there so that we can actually see what we're doing. Just like that. There you go, dice 1, dice 2. And let's also have a way to print our sum. So down here, we're going to do printf, and let's say your sum is, and we're going to do %d again, because we are calling an integer, and we're going to say sum. And let's throw a new line in there as well. So there you go. We have dice 1, dice 2, and our sum. Our sum was not 7 or 11, and so we lose, but it does give us the option to play again. And so you can see it's going to keep cycling through. I'm getting the different values. I finally got a 2 and a 5 to get a 7. And there it says, congratulations, your sum was 7. One thing I'm noticing is when I start the program, it doesn't actually have a way to inform the user of what they're actually doing. It's just kind of throwing them into this game. So let's fix that. Above the do loop, because I don't need it to loop. Once the player knows what they're doing, it's fine. So we're going to do printf. Let's do like, I don't know, make it fancy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Dice game. Yeah, throw an exclamation mark in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there you go. Now we are printing that. So there you go. The first time we run the program, throw a new line in there. First time we run the program, it will give you that line up at the beginning, or at least it should. Why is it not printing up my line anymore? All I did was put a new line in there. It should be printing just fine. Okay, we have a little bit of an issue, but let's just do our next printf and see if we can resolve that in a second. So there we go. Now the user knows what they're doing. Let's see if it works this time. Goal is to roll a 7 or an 11. So why? We're gonna have to do some more problem solving here. Is it because of this system clear? Let's try commenting that out and see if this works. It is because of that system clear. So I think I understand what's happening. It's just running this code, but then it's automatically going to our do loop. And so it's just clearing everything that we had. So the way we can fix that is we can say get character. And what this does is it's going to actually stop and wait for a user to put in an input. There you go, just like that. And then now when we hit enter, then it runs our program. So that's another little example of problem solving there. Like press enter to begin, let's say. So there you go, just like that. You can see we can run this. It says press enter to begin. And now we can run through our program. We added these scores in here. So let's make a way to keep track of the score. Where do we want the score displayed? We'll have this, we'll have the score displayed even before it rolls the dice. So we'll do printf, and then we can say your score is, and we can say %d, and we're going to call player score. Just like that. And so if we run this, it should just say 0 after we start. So let's press enter. There you can see your score is 0. So let's get another new line in there. And we're going to copy this and paste it just underneath. And I'm going to say computer, or the computer's score is %dn. And then we're going to do not player score, but we're going to do comp score. And so every time we win, we already have a way to count up our score. But if we lose, there's no way to count the computer score. So if sum is not 7 or 11, we're going to do ++ comp score, just like that. So I believe this should all be working now, just like that. It is a little bit messy in there still. So let's go and put a new line here. So there we go. This is going to separate everything into different blocks. So you can see this kind of block up here is for our score and the computer score. This block here is for our dice values and our sum. This block here tells you what your sum is, or like if you won or lost based on your sum, and would you like to play again? So we lost. So if we hit yes to continue, it should, there you go, increase the computer score by 1. And now if I continue to do this, you can see, like I said, it's not the most practical game. We are racking up losses there. Oh, I'm finally getting some. That was a little bit of a lucky streak, probably just some issue with random, to be honest. But either way, you can see we now have a way to count up or down. And that's pretty much it. Our program is fully working. But just for the sake of user experience, I do want to have a way to print like an end screen. So after this loop, once we kind of break out of the do while loop, when our loop is equal to false, if we press no, let's just throw some more printf statements in here. So printf, and then I can say, let's do another system clear. So let's do system clear. And let's actually throw that up at the beginning too, because you can see when I run my program, it has all this, but it still has this main and this Clang information up at the top. So I want to get rid of that as soon as possible. So right away after our variables, we're going to say system clear. And then down here, I already have my system clear, so that should be fine. And then I'm going to say, thank you for playing. And we'll throw another printf in there, and I can say, I don't know, here are the final scores or something like that. So here are the final scores. And the first thing I want to do is print your score. And then we're going to do %d, and then we're going to call to player score. Why is that not working? Remember, reference type is const char, but not structure or union. I don't know what that means. It's because there's a period there, not a comma. There we go. So print your score was, and then we're calling to the player score. And then I can say the computer's score, %d, and then we're going to do comp score. And so now we can run our program. You can see it clears all that stuff from the top. It says dice game, your goal is to roll a 7 or an 11. Press enter to begin. If we press enter, you can see it displays both of our scores starting at 0 because there's nothing to go off of. This counts as our first roll here. And so we did not win in this case. So if we press yes to continue, you can see the computer score counts up by 1, counts up again. We just won. There we go. We can keep going as long as we want. And then when we decide this program is not fair, I hate this program, I keep losing, we can press no. And there you go. Thank you for playing. Here are the final scores, your score, the computer score. Again, let's just kind of clean that up a little bit. But yeah, that's basically everything you would need. So we've started. Yes, I would like to continue, keep going through, rack up all those losses. And once again, once I've had enough, I go like this. My score is 0 and the computer score is 9. So yeah, like I said, not the most practical game, just because it's virtually impossible to win. I don't think you could ever really win unless you happen to get lucky in your first try and you quit the program right away. But that's basically it. So I'd say there's quite a few good things you can learn about how loops work, if-else statements, just printing, scanning, and storing user information. There's that use of the OR operator there, breaking out of a loop using a bool value. Yeah, tons of really cool stuff. If there's anything that you didn't understand, I can try and make some more videos talking about the basics of C and not just going into it and making a project. But like I said, I'm fairly new to C myself, and this was more of just kind of a documentation, I guess, of my learning process, and not and not so much a tutorial. But yeah, thank you so much for watching.